The UN Security Council is expected to vote over the next few days on a resolution aimed at appeasing the escalating conflict in Syria. The draft calls on the regime there to comply with an Arab League proposal which would see President Assad cede power, paving the way for a coalition government with the opposition. It comes as the Arab League's monitoring mission to Syria suffered a setback after 6 countries pulled out, calling on the UN to act. Russia has made it clear it will veto any Security Council resolution that would allow foreign military intervention. An estimated 7,500 people have been killed since the unrest began 10 months ago, including civilians, rebels and government forces. Sarah Firth has the latest from Damascus.
Saying their goodbyes and heading home, the observers from the Gulf states leave for the airport, their mission incomplete, leaving behind a country in a deepening crisis. It was never going to be easy. So you want the Arab League monitors to stay?
I don't want them to stay.
Right from the word go, the missions proved problematic. The opposition accused the monitors of being too closely aligned with the government. The government's now accused them of being part of a foreign conspiracy. And there were logistical complaints too. The observers seemed ill-equipped on the ground, and there were concerns that there were simply too few numbers to undertake such a major task. But if things were bad at the beginning, now they seem even worse. Following in Saudi Arabia's footsteps, all the Gulf states withdrew their observers after Damascus rejected their recent proposal that included President Assad cede power to a deputy and form a unity government.
What's interesting that these countries is very interested in democracy in Syria, and they have nothing. Yani, this is the most interesting. This is something funny. We will talk about Syria. Okay, Syria, we will have a new constitution. We are going to more democratic country, multi-party system. But what about Saudi Arabia? And the West cannot talk about Syria, which will be changed, and leave Saudi Arabia as it is.
Damascus's rejection was no surprise. Both sides in the conflict have shown equal unwillingness to soften their stance, even though it's meant the daily death toll in the country continually rising. The killing of the head of the Syrian Arab Red Crescent whilst on the road to Damascus, yet another reminder of the spiralling situation. And the withdrawal of the observers at such a crucial moment in the country's crisis is seen as controversial. As the death toll rises, the earlier proposal being floated to increase the number of observers on the ground and provide them with UN training could be a life-saving one. But for now, those plans have been put on hold. In fact, much of the substance of the report that named grave abuses on both sides seems to have been lost in the flurry of diplomatic activity. And now France and Britain have joined forces at the United Nations to try to end President Assad's rule. Waving goodbye to their Gulf state colleagues, some observers remain, but it's small consolation.
Syria didn't close the doors in front of the Arab League, and I think Syria, in its diplomacy, will give anyone to help the Syrian, but the last decision is in the hands of the Syrian people, not in the hands, not Arab League, not Security Council. Through national dialogue, through these reforms.
Despite Damascus allowing the mission to be extended for another month, and the observers officially saying that they can continue with the task, behind the scenes and the sentiment is much less optimistic. It's a gloomy outlook for the country, with little regional or international agreement on what action should be taken to stop the violence. Hopes of putting an end to the crisis seem to be slipping further and further out of reach. Sarah Firth, RT, Damascus, Syria.
Well, coming